Good morning. It is a little after 5:30 in the morning, actually closer to 5:40 now, so I have to run soon. Just sipping currently on an endurance mix. It's really just a mix of carbohydrates and electrolytes. I added extra electrolytes in it because it is really like hot and humid right now, so I want to stay fueled. Today is officially day one of my marathon training block. So on the docket, I have 5 miles at an easy pace. On the app here, it's giving me 5 miles at a conversational pace, which should be no faster than 9 minutes and 10 seconds per mile. But in my previous marathons, one of my biggest issues has been hitting the wall pretty bad. And I had the opportunity to go do a metabolic heart rate test and a VO2 max test a couple of weeks ago. And one thing that was discovered, which I'll break down after the run, is I need to be spending more time in a certain heart rate zone, which is my zone 2. Zone 2 training has been somewhat popular recently, but I'll explain why. So today it's almost going to be more of a challenge running even slower than this 9 minutes and 10 seconds per mile, but we'll attempt that. I have here a heart rate monitor to really monitor my heart rate to make sure I don't go past a certain heart rate, which is going to be 138 beats per minute for myself today. But yeah, let's go attempt it, and I'll review, break down, and speak more about that after the run. See you guys.
When you're looking down, half your vision is like stuff in the water.
All right, so we are back. Just enjoying some breakfast. Got some protein pancakes, some watermelon, and some electrolyte. The run went well. I ended up being a total of, let's see here, 5 miles in 57 minutes 38 seconds for an average pace of 11:31. So significantly slower than what I typically tend to be at, and an average heart rate of 138. So yeah, it was challenging because there were times where heart rate would kind of spike and go up, but let's get really nerdy here. I brought my computer. I have a little bit of time before I have to start work here, so just wanted to kind of jump into, like I said, had the opportunity a couple weeks ago to do a VO2 max and resting metabolic rate test, and well, here are kind of the results. I just wanted to dive in through them to kind of talk through what they mean. First and foremost, I should probably talk about what this test was and why I did it. There were 2 tests that I did. My wife did one of them as well. So I did kind of resting metabolic rate, and body composition. That's part of one, and then VO2 max. That's more of a performance test. That was part of the second one. Real reason I did it is I wanted to get a little bit of a baseline, to know where I'm at fitness wise and body composition wise. As I go into a training block, and then afterwards to see, was my training effective to some extent. I wanted to get an understanding of that. So you get there, you have to be fasted for at least 3 hours in order for the test to be accurate. And then what they start with is they take a laser in order to, I know like there's so many ways to take your body fat percentage, but they use a laser. It's one of the most accurate, but there's no real accurate, like he was to explain to us. the only real accurate way of calculating your body fat percentage would be to sit in boiling water and see what percentage of you comes to the surface. So obviously no one's going to do that. So there's no, everything is an estimate, but you can get as close as possible. Then they hook you up to this machine. From a breathing standpoint, it calculates, I believe, like, you know, the amount of oxygen going and CO2 going in and out, in order to give you all these different metrics that we'll go through. And finally, you still have the machine on, but you now have a heart rate monitor as well, and they put this sensor up to your legs to calculate how much oxygen is depleted in your legs and how fast you recover, in order to and that's when you do the VO2 max test. So coming out of there, I actually got a lot more insight into kind of why these marathons have been so difficult in the past, that I didn't expect to get out of this. So I did find it very beneficial, and that's why I was really keen on sharing. And I thought like maybe someone could take something away, even if you don't do the test completely. You may still take something away from my results. All right, so first of all, and I'll share all these results obviously on screen, but body composition, pretty self-explanatory. I was hovering right around 18% body fat. Obviously, with being a bigger person, I was still within a healthy range, but it's something that I would love to take down to 15% and kind of maintain that 15%. That's where I would like to be. It's not necessarily like a guideline or something that I recommend, but for myself, in order to have enough energy to run and exercise and lift heavy, 15% is really, to me, a healthy body fat percentage that I think that is maintainable, but also allows me to have the energy to go through my days. But that's pretty much it. And this is after this is really where some of the resting metabolic rate assessment comes into play. I have a decently fast metabolism, which is good because that means that there's, you know, I can work with that. But then after this fuel source, this is where it becomes really interesting. We want to be, you know, in general, humans, we want to be burning, using 75% fats to 25% carbs from a fuel source standpoint. And you can see here in my results, I'm at 35% fats and 65% carbs. So meaning that I burn more carbs, and especially when it comes to endurance sports, that means that my carb intake is getting depleted really, really fast. Based on all of this, well, this is just my caloric intake, you know, what I'm supposed to eat, and then it gives me, I think, a little bit of a breakdown, here at the bottom. Yeah, this is just like a really good indicator of where I am from a baseline standpoint. Resting heart rate of 46 beats per minute, that was really, really good. I was really happy with that number. I didn't think it was going to be that low. Then it just gives this a few pieces of advice, and then just charts of healthy, like what it looks like to be a healthy adult. Overall, I'm not huge into tracking every single meal. I started tracking them mainly because I tend to underfuel, especially from a protein standpoint. So I started tracking just to get a little better idea, to make sure I'm hitting my protein goal on a daily basis. But outside of that, like, I kind of like to eat intuitively. I kind of know what I'm doing at this point. I've been doing this fitness thing for quite a while, so not super concerned there. But like I said, some of my goals, I don't necessarily have a weight goal, but body fat percentage, I think that if I can get close to that 15%, probably being around I'm around 253. I was 253 at the time of the test. Probably staying around 245. Wouldn't really want to go lower than that, because below that, like, I tend to lose a lot of my strength, and I want to remain strong, be able to lift heavy while I continue my running and endurance sports journey. Then the more fun test, the active metabolic assessment. This is the endurance test. Um, there were a bunch of metrics. That's where they hooked me up in the treadmill and put me on the treadmill. They hooked me up with the masked heart rate monitor and everything. The treadmill actually failed on me, so I had to do the test twice. So I was already kind of tired, and then I had to do the test on the assault treadmill, meaning that I had to keep up with a certain pace versus the first time he was just increasing the speed every minute or so. So it was a little harder. He said that my test isn't probably the most accurate, but I was really happy with the result that I got, honestly. A bunch of, so I won't go through every single one of these metrics like lung capacity and all of that. Not all of the, well, they're all important from like a health standpoint, but I'll go through kind of the ones that are more relevant, or I give us the information that we need to a certain extent. So the cardiometric, that's really why we do it. So my VO2 max was 54, like I said, with the conditions where I was. Still in a really good category, 85th percentile. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I would like to get it in the 60s. I think that would be really cool, but I think that would be really cool more than it would be useful for me. And we're going to see here that there are some other areas that require work. So obviously I covered a second ago that right now my main fuel source is carbs versus fat, where we want to flip that around and use mainly fats versus carb. The best way to do that is zone 2 training. And people have talked a little bit about that zone 2 training. I addressed it this morning, right? That's why I was going on this run. And switching that to a point where you're at 65 to 75% of your heart rate, and that's really where your body is burning the most amount of fat during an endurance sport, and not dip it into your carb storage. So for myself, that would be like a 11 minute per mile pace, which is significantly slower than what I'm used to, and anywhere from 105 to 138 beats per minute. So it's like a really, really slow slow run, or even maybe an uphill walk or something of that nature. And one thing that I found really interesting, so there's your aerobic fitness and your anaerobic fitness. So your aerobic fitness is really that area where your body's using fat as a main source, and then the anaerobic is a lot of like your really explosive, right? Like your speed runs when your heart rate gets into these higher zones. And it was interesting to me to see that I'm really strong in that area, but not as strong in that zone 1 and zone 2, because everything that I've done training wise has been, even in my easy runs, I'm typically 150, 160 heart rate, and I'm like, well, this is comfortable, so I'm just gonna stay right here. And when I do a lot of my speed runs, I'm like, ooh, I'm getting a lot stronger. But that's really where my strength is, and my ability to burn fat as a main source. That's really where I lack, and that's where I need to put in quite a bit of work. And the reason that's so important, I want to focus on this here, is my carb utilization. So typically in a marathon, I tend to be in that zone 3, so around 4. I'm utilizing 4 grams of carbs per minute. And what he was sharing with me, the person that did my test, his name was Adam. I should have mentioned that. And it was at ISHP. I want to give them their flowers because they did a really fantastic job, and I absolutely loved the test. So probably should have plugged them in early. But he was sharing with me that right now I'm utilizing 4 grams of carbs per minute during a marathon, meaning that you need to replenish about half of that. So what I would need is about 120 grams of carbs per hour. And I think that Toronto Marathon, I took a 20 grams of carbs gel every 4 miles, so probably every 35 to 40 minutes. So I was probably closer to 40 grams of carbs that I was replenishing, where I needed 120. And in Paris, I took a couple, I think 1 or 2 40 grams, but for the most part I was taking 20 grams of carbs every 30 minutes. So once again, at the most I was replenishing 60 grams of carbs per hour. So clearly wasn't enough, which explains me breaking down or hitting that wall really bad where your muscles are just completely depleted, because there's just no more carbs to sustain that. So yeah, so even though it may sound super exciting to want to increase my VO2 max, because you can, especially among the running community, you can go around and tell people like, oh yeah, my VO2 max is this high or this high. But for me, that's not my problem. Like I don't have a cardio issue, right? It's not that I can't keep up cardio wise. It's that I deplete all my carb storage, my glycogen stores, and then I don't have any more carb storage in order to finish my workout. So two things that we're doing in order to combat that: spending more time in zone 2, so that ideally when we look at my resting metabolic rate, that hopefully I increase the utilization of fats versus carbs. And then number 2 is going to be increasing the amount of fuel, and making sure that I have the right amount of fuel for what I need personally, in order to fuel me through the whole 26.2 miles. Obviously, when you're running for 3 hours, right, it's like understanding how much carbs you need to take in within that amount of time, and then hopefully that creates a good plan for me for the Chicago Marathon. But yeah, overall the test I think was really good. I think it's something that I would recommend to people, specifically because you may look out there and see people say like, hey, do this workout, you need to do this speed workout in order to get faster, or this, that, or to lose weight you have to do this, or add more HIIT workouts. But for you, that might not be right for you. I think that as you go through your fitness journey, even if it's not running, right, just to get an understanding, for a lot of people it's really just going on walks, right? Maybe spending time in zone 1, maybe it's spending time in zone 2. And for a lot of people, zone 1 or zone 2 might just be going for a walk or going on an uphill walk. And that's really what's going to contribute to their fitness, because I think that they gave me actually advice on here. A little bit of a training recommendation. Yeah, so spending 1, 2, so 3, at least 3 runs of 45 minutes or more in zone 2 per week. And then, what I plan on doing is adding that to my workout. So it might not be runs all the time. There's a hill right next to me, so sometimes just going to be going on a walk there, and just spending more time in that heart rate zone, and being tracking that. But yeah, like I said, this test kind of gave me a good indication of what was going wrong for my body, for where I am. And fitness, what I've found out is it's not unilateral, right? It's not the same for everyone. And I think that maybe it can inspire someone watching this, not necessarily to go and do this test. I don't think that, I think it's great, but it's definitely a luxury that I have with my benefits, and I get that it's pricey, so it might not be in the cards for everyone, but it is for people to understand, to at least understand hey, maybe what I've been doing isn't what's right for me. Right, at the end of the day, yeah, fitness is pretty simple, right? Calories in versus calories out should end in a certain result. But maybe you've been doing stuff for a while thinking wow, I'm not losing weight, I've been going to the gym, I've been trying to eat healthy and all this. Maybe there are some specific things, there are some things that you can add, whether it's just very low intensity training. Maybe it is for you, it may be adding some higher intensity training. Maybe it is that your body has plateaued, or whatever it is. But for myself, I decided to check it out, try it out, and we'll see the results at the end, and we'll put everything into practice, and we'll see what comes out of it. But I'm very excited. It feels like I have a little bit of a plan, because before that I felt a little scared. I was like, man, I've never been able to go through that, get over that wall. Is this something that's not in the cards for me? But we'll try this time. We'll change the approach a little bit and see where we end up. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here for this week. I hope I hope I didn't bore anyone. Well, I guess you can just click off the video if you're really that bored. But I hope like this helps, honestly, because it was really insightful for me just to get there. Maybe it is because I'm into this stuff. Like I was sitting on the call with this guy Adam for forever, just asking him questions. But wanted to share. But for now, don't want to make this too long. What we'll do is I have another workout, so that's why I'm eating this way. I have to go to the gym later on today. We'll continue training for the rest of the week, and we'll check in next week as we progress with this training plan. But thanks so much for tuning in, especially if you made it to this point. I appreciate that, and I'll speak to you later.